This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. U.S. crude oil stockpiles jumped last week as refinery utilization dropped, while gasoline inventories posted a surprise build, the Energy Information Administration said on Wednesday. Crude inventories rose by 1.4 million barrels in the week to October 20th to 421.1 million barrels, much more than analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for a 240,000 barrel build. Refinery crude runs fell by 207,000 barrels per day in the last week, while refinery utilization rates fell by 0.5 percentage point to 85.6% of total capacity.
Crude oil prices in some of the world's main physical markets have weakened due to a jump in freight costs and a drop in refining margins, according to traders and LSEG data, suggesting demand weakness that could filter through to the futures market. Falling prices for physical crude could presage a fall in crude futures. Brent crude futures have risen above $87 a barrel from the low $70s in June due to OPEC Plus supply cuts, and more recently on concern that exports from the Middle East could fall if the conflict in Gaza widens. West Africa's two biggest crude exporters, Nigeria and Angola, have sizable overhangs for loading scheduled for November. Crude premiums to benchmark prices have come down by $1 to $2 a barrel depending on the grade, traders said.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The European Commission has proposed imposing methane emissions limits on EU gas imports from 2030, a move that would pressure the bloc's international fossil fuel suppliers including the US to cut leaks of the potent planet-warming gas. The proposal seen by Reuters on Wednesday and dated October 23 comes in response to pressure from the European Parliament and some big EU countries including France in ongoing talks on a law addressing methane emissions inside the bloc. Methane is the main component of the natural gas countries burn in power plants and to heat homes. It is also a greenhouse gas and the second biggest cause of climate change after carbon dioxide, with a potent warming effect when it escapes into the atmosphere.
Oil prices fell on Thursday after a rise in U.S. crude stockpiles and a climb in the dollar index, giving up some ground gained a day earlier when prices jumped on Middle East tensions. Brent crude futures declined by 67 cents, or 0.7%, to $89.46 a barrel at 0630 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures eased 71 cents, or 0.8%, to $84.68 a barrel. The benchmark oil contracts had settled nearly 2% higher on Wednesday but fell back after the Wall Street Journal reported that Israel has agreed to delay an expected invasion of Gaza for now.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
A G7 statement announcing a ban on imports of Russian diamonds is expected by the end of this month, followed closely by a proposal for the European Union's 12th package of sanctions on Russia, diplomatic sources said. We now need the final blessing of the G7 before then translating these elements in legal texts at the European level, an EU diplomat said. A second source said the statement was expected to arrive within a week. The EU's 12th sanctions package is expected to focus on Russian diamonds.
Dalian and Singapore iron ore futures were subdued on Thursday amid worries that Chinese demand for the steelmaking ingredient will remain weak in the near term, overshadowing China's stepped-up fiscal support for its flagging economy. The most traded January iron ore on China's Dalian Commodity Exchange dipped 0.2% to 869 yuan, $118.75, per metric ton by 0300 GMT. On the Singapore Exchange, the benchmark November iron ore contract was down 0.2% at $116.95 per ton. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. Russia's grain harvest in 2023 is seen at 140 million tons, Russian Agriculture Minister Dmitry Patrushev said during a meeting with Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Thursday. The wheat crop is seen at 93 million tons, Patrushev said. The 2023 grain harvest is down from last year's record high but still its second largest ever.
That is all for today's news on commodity market. Stay tuned to Trade Flow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.